Let's take a look at when some cold winter air could be entering the States, the Europeans' 46-day snowfall outlook, our tropical update, and our severe weather outlook. It's October 12th, 2025. Let's get into the weather updates. All right, let's start with what's going on in our upper atmosphere up here in the northern hemisphere. As I move forward in time, this is our latest Euro model. I want you to notice, obviously, there's a lot of freezing air up here, but there's not much currently in the States. As we move forward in time, our models do expect the polar jet to start wobbling a little bit more. This is going to help us get some of that freezing air down into the lower 48. This is quite far out, but it would make sense with our current climatological outlook. You can see these wobbles here, and this is at the 850 millibar level. So this is not at the surface, this is just above the surface. And you can see another dip here. These would be some decent troughs digging into the States. We would likely have some strong storms out ahead of this and some very cold Arctic and Canadian air sinking in here. Now, models aren't really seeing this over the next week. It's really as we move into the end of October and beginning of November. Remember, we have entered into our weak La Nina, meaning our polar jet is expected to hold a position a little bit farther to the north and likely periodically dip down through the plains. Now, as I just showed you at the end of that run, the Euro model expects a very amplified trough to potentially push down somewhere into the northern plains, Midwest, and then out east. You can see right here with our teleconnections an extremely positive PNA. This would represent a large ridge building out west, which would create that very amplified troughing pattern, potentially out east or down through the plains. This is far out, but this is kind of something that we're expecting is going to happen. Is it within a week or is it 2 to 3 weeks is the question. But with the warm NPO and the temperature gradient we have between our subpolar North Atlantic Sea and our North American landmass right now, there's going to be some instability with that polar jet, the tropospheric and stratospheric jet. If we were to see a PNA this positive though, you can bet there'd be some early season snow, potentially through portions of the plains, Midwest, and then inland New England. So this is something I'm going to watch closely moving forward. This is our European 46-day snowfall outlook. And again, is there going to be snow in these exact places that it shows in 46 days? Absolutely not. We simply look at this to see how aggressive the European model is being with cold and snow over the next about month and a half. And it is trying to pull that snow line pretty far south here. So you can see it's likely still expecting some amplified troughing, some cold air, and potentially an increased frequency in our snowstorms. I did quickly want to speak on something that we haven't talked about in a while, and that is severe weather. I just wanted to push forward through this. This is our 850 millibar height and wind run from the GFS. And as we move forward in time, I want you to notice what happens here Wednesday night into Thursday. This is a pretty decent jet streak, and it is right through Tornado Alley here. Now, why is this a concern? These winds are right above the surface. Once you get this strong northerly flow here, moisture, heat, humidity is being pulled in from the Gulf, and behind this, we're likely going to have some drier and colder air. This, to me, looks like a potential severe weather setup. And then as we move into Thursday night and Friday, you can see that shear pushing off into the upper Midwest, which means we may get Iowa, Minnesota, and Wisconsin involved. And a little bit farther down the line, we may actually have a Dixie Alley setup. This is farther out in the model, though, so we're not going to talk about it too much yet. As of right now, we're not seeing a ton of instability for this potential Thursday and Friday severe weather event, which is good news, but I'll keep you guys updated. Let's take a look at what's going on out in our tropics. We have an area of interest labeled right here from the National Hurricane Center, or NHC, and this has a 70% chance of cyclone formation within the next 7 days. Now, most models are currently keeping this out to sea, although our latest GFS run does bring this potential tropical cyclone into the Eastern Caribbean and then up into the Western Atlantic. Now, there is a scenario where the storm tracks off farther west and becomes a threat to the Gulf, but it's really way too early to worry about that. And most models, as I said, keep this out to sea. I only say that because it's really hard for our models to predict the track of a storm that hasn't even formed yet. So although we have a lot of our runs taking this storm up and missing the States, it wouldn't be that crazy over the next few days to see some members taking the storm a little bit closer to the States. But we're really not going to have to concern ourselves with this system for at least another 10 to 14 days. Looking out in the southwest, we still have that strong southwesterly flow, so a lot of moisture being pushed into Arizona, New Mexico, and Colorado. And look at this big trough out here that's diving down into California. This is what's going to potentially bring some heavy snow into the Sierra Nevada and some good rainfall along the central to southern California coast. This will also bring with it more cold air for the west. That is why the CPC, or Climate Prediction Center, is expecting the west to remain below average at least through the next 6 to 10 days. And then looking at the next 8 to 14 days, you're at least average or still maybe slightly below average. You have quite a cool pattern that's continuing. Our temperatures out east actually get closer to average here. This would only be slightly above average. We're talking maybe 3 to 5 degrees above average. And again, that's because our models are expecting our polar jet to begin that wobble that I was talking about in the beginning of the video. Once you get a high pressure and some heat building up to the north here, your jet stream will actually slow down, and that's when that polar jet begins to collapse, which allows that cold air from the north to flow down with that polar jet as it collapses into the States. There are a few more things I wanted to point out. I was actually about to wrap up this video, but there's something I've been noticing. If we take a look at our 500 millibar height anomaly, this is on the Canadian, but the CFS and the Euro is showing it as well, including the JMA. We're continuing to see an Alaskan ridge here as we get into the end of November and into December. We're also noticing some higher heights up here over the Arctic and some troughing up here Northern Plains, Midwestern region, and South Central Canada. Now, this strong Alaskan ridge that we're seeing definitely has something to do with our weak La Nina. We are expecting our polar jet to kind of dive in from that Alaskan region, so sometimes you do get a strong ridge built out there. I'm going to tell you what, though, this to me looks like our storm tracks could be seriously enhanced up here. We may not be getting major snowstorms, but I think through early winter, we could be seeing a lot of clippers or Alberta clippers moving through the plains and the Midwest, potentially even down into the Ohio Valley and then out through inner New England. Take a look at our CFS here as well. Strong ridging up here in Alaska. A little bit of warmth up over the Arctic that can help to squeeze some of that cold air down into the states. And then you can see that troughing out here that would be moving into the Midwestern Northern Plains region, then potentially out towards the East Coast. Now, you'd want some more blocking here to hold some of that cold air in, but it's continuing to look like this could be a very, very cold start to winter. If you want heavy snow through the plains, Midwest, Ohio Valley, and that inner New England area, you definitely want a large Alaskan ridge, and all the models are showing it. Now, to get some of that snow out along the eastern seaboard, if you're talking the mid-Atlantic, the New England coast, you'd want to get some blocking out here, definitely over Greenland, maybe a little blocking down to the south, but a strong Alaskan ridge like this would give us the opportunity for some very amplified troughing that could dig down and try to pull up some of that Gulf moisture, but we got plenty of time to figure this out. And the last thing I forgot I wanted to point out was if we do push ahead in the Euro, and this is the European ensemble, it really is starting to believe, and so's the GFS, that we're gonna get some tropical activity out here in the Western Caribbean. Again, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but I talked about in the stream the other day how this subtropical jet is weakening. It's letting up, moving up to the north. That's typically what happens with the La Nina, and there's plenty of moist air in the Caribbean. The dry air has been off into the northeast and far off into the northwest. There's a pocket here and a time frame for something to form. Our GFS ensembles see it, so do our European ensemble. So I'd say as we get into week 3, week 4 of October, we should have our eyes down here on the Gulf and Caribbean. I appreciate you guys watching this video. If you like this type of content, feel free to throw me a follow or sub. I make posts like this every day, and I try and stream 5 days a week to try and answer all of your weather related questions. I'll see you in the next video.